and then I'll call the leader of the Senate to end it. The senior Senator Danduse, he doesn't speak always, so let him say something.
Thank you, Mr. President, my respected colleagues. This matter is very important for us to look at it with all sense of responsibility, because this institution is an institution that must be respected and appreciated in terms of making law and in terms of following due process. And if you look at the public discourse on this very important issue, and if you look at the type of stereotype of form of perception and the negative and the unfortunate situation this distinguished Senator Natasha, after all the appeal made by her prominent senators from her state, she continued to go to the court and continued to go to the public instead of to refer to the Committee on Ethics and Privilege. I think if we are not enforcing our constitutional responsibilities, I urge this Senate to expunge the second recommendation for that the Senate to consider lifting the suspension or reducing the tenure of suspension of Senator Natasha if she submit a written apology to the Senate before the reconsideration by the Senate, because she has the leverage to do what is needful as a matured and responsible woman. But despite that appeal by my neighbor, she went and destroyed the names of prominent leaders of this institution. So I'm against the lifting of any or reducing any suspension less than 6 months, which was recommended by the committee. And at the same time, if we are not imposing our laws into those that breach the law, so that means our coming here is meaningless. Because if you look at all of us here, we have the mandate of Nigerians, and we go through vigorous campaign to come here, and all the burdens of Nigerians are under us. We are under serious pressure, and all of us, if you look at us, we are under serious stress and under serious pressure by different people on this very important matter. So as a matter of fact, if you look at the 10th Assembly, how many people died because of the pressure of the people. And this negative and stereotype form of perception, which was created by disgruntled elements because of their selfish and myopic thinking, will allow them to be continued to come to this right chamber. Mr. President, and respected colleagues, with due respect and sense of humility, generosity is being encouraged in all religions, whether Islam or Christianity. But law must be imposed on anybody. That is why Nigeria, we are having a lot of problems. If we are not imposing law on lawmakers that break the law by creating stereotype and negative perception against all of us, that means we are nowhere to be found independently. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, prominent state and prominent individuals that are here, all of them are under serious discourse. I saw His Excellency, the former governor of Abia State in Arise. I saw him in channels defending this institution, this sanctity of this institution. We cannot allow ourselves to be put under serious stress. We have a lot of things. Under this assembly, we are trying to solve most of the existing problems we have inherited since independence, because we are trying to put things in a very perspective manner. So, Mr. President and my respected colleagues, I'm against lifting this, but we have done it in 7th Assembly when House of Reps member from Kano State, Abdul Munmin Jibril, went against the institution, but we refuse to lift it. That is why he become under a serious control and respect for the institution. And all Nigerians, all eyes are on us. Because if we allow this thing, that after abusing you, Mr. President, after holding all the positions in this country, you are deserved to be respected as a father and putting your family under serious stress. So, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, even if there is any allegations, you need to put it as you have helped this woman, you have helped her to be in a position. So I think it is unhealthy. We should allow ourselves to be misused by appealing from the minority leader to make this institution bastardized. Thank you, Mr. President.
Fold, definitely, but may his soul continue to rest in peace. All right, now we have Olamide Odekunle standing by to bring us up to speed with stories that are trending now.
Good morning, team. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Sad news this morning, but I'm going to take it away. Good morning, guys. I like to say that TVC has a finger on the pulse and an eye on the street, and if it's trending, me and the team are definitely going to be dissecting it on here. In our first story, the Nigerian Senate has suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan for 6 months following her sexual harassment allegation against Senate President Goodwill Akpabio. Now, this suspension was announced during Thursday's plenary, and it came after a recommendation from the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions. Nigerians from all corners of the country, class, and creed are reacting to the decision of her suspension. Let's take a look at some of the reactions that are trending on social media. We all watched with bated breath yesterday. Senator Shehu Sani says, when I publicly disclosed the salaries and allowances of the senators, it nearly earned me a 6-month suspension, if not for divine intervention, Saraki, and Ekwere Madu's immediate rescue. Just know that if you are there and you blow the whistle too loudly, you will be on your own. No senator will bring him head or neck to support you. Bashir Al-Rufai says, it is important to note that the Nigerian Senate does not have the power nor the legitimacy to suspend a sitting senator. It is illegal. This is a standalone tweet. And finally, okay, that's all we have for now. But I will say this is very interesting because the Senate President just on Wednesday did pledge his unwavering support for a bill that seeks to create special seats for women. And he said this during a Commonwealth parliamentary meeting from a delegation from the Commonwealth. And so it's clear to see that he's trying to perhaps make amends or show us that he has support and love for women. But I will also say this, there's been a lot of sensibility politics, what should be expected of a woman. Is Senator Natasha, was she too brash in her approach? But we must ask ourselves, do we hold ourselves to the same standard as we hold men and women? What do you guys think about this?
Okay, for me, I would say if she had made her case and left it there, it would have been nice. And if you want to go to war, look, you go with an army, you don't go alone. Right now it's as if she's standing alone and the knocks are coming and she's not having the kind of support she expects. Maybe she expected to have. It's unfortunate, but she should use the 6 months to try settle things with the hierarchy of the Senate, and maybe it will be reduced to 3 months or 2.
Or less. Or 14, as stipulated. But then the thing is, some people are taking this emotionally. I think it's more procedural than what is supposed to be personal, between herself and the Senate President. Some were saying that the Senate President ought to have recused himself. He shouldn't have been a judge in his own case. But it's about the issue that happened on the floor of the National Assembly, not on the sexual harassment and all of that. So if you have someone, she now appears to be like a loner in this regard, because we didn't have any other senator, as far as I know, throwing his weight behind her. So I think, the Senate President also read out an item of the resolution that maybe she should be allowed to ask for forgiveness, write an apology letter, and then probably they will reduce the suspension. We hope that she will do that soon.
Well, in all of this, I still see that there is a win, because right now the Senate has come with something special with regards to women having special seats. So that's a win for her. She fought and she has gotten that. So how does she build on that, on that moving forward, and also ensuring that this whole matter of her private matter between she and the Senate President does not overshadow her constitutional duties. Now she has 6 months. What goes on behind the scene to addressing any other issue will be crucial to how her constituents are viewing her role in the Senate moving forward. I am just hoping that this does not have any implication on her political career in the future.
Yes, I agree with you. Some people have said that she's just committed career suicide, but we watch and wait. But we must remember that to every action there is.
The Senate done anything wrong against Senator Akpoti Uduaghan?
Well, to start with, I think that they have not just wronged Uduaghan, they have wronged Nigeria. The reason is simple. We all know that a few days ago, maybe 2 days ago or so, the court order was served on the Senate of Nigeria. The committee in charge of ethics and so on and so forth. And that there was proof of service. I mean, this was flying on the social media and everyone saw it. They got a substituted order to serve on the Senate through the office of the clerk. This was done. And then, in spite of this, you then sit down, you then rush a committee report, and then the person who is accused and who was likely to suffer from a suspension order was not even present. And so, in one breath, there was no fair hearing. You never heard the other side, in line with the provisions of the Constitution, Section 36. In the other breath, you disobeyed flagrantly a court order. And then you turn around to say, oh, the judiciary is not strong enough, the judiciary should improve, when we are the very ones, by this behavior, undermining judicial institutions in this country. Honestly, if I were the judge and the appropriate applications are made before me, I will go very far. to make that point strong. Now let's come back to the rules. They made so much noise about the rules. We wrote these rules.
Rule 60, Rule 40,
we reviewed,
Rule 20. There are a few sections of...
We reviewed the rules in 1999. I was the first to lay down the reviewed rules. It was what I laid that I sent to the Senate for them to use. It's not changed. They've just changed, increased committees, a few here and there. Now, the Senate President allocates the seat. The dispute arose from the allocation of seat. Now, once it is the Senate President that allocates a seat and a senator complains about a right to a seat, it's a privilege because the right to be in the Senate is by election and a certificate of return. Do not forget, you and I cannot go there. So once she raises that point, it is a duty under Order 10, the famous Order 10 she was shouting about, of the presiding officer to have suspended all other matters. I consider that a very serious issue. And taking her complaint and make a formal ruling. But if you watch the proceedings on that day, as the distinguished senator was shouting Order 10, Order 10, I already heard the presiding officer talking about prepare for suspension. Review the tape. We've seen it. You were already preparing her for suspension even before you.
So was it fake accompli?
Oh yeah, it was completely.
They decided our fate even long before the ethics committee was even.
It was predetermined. And then beyond that, the question was, at the time they went to court, the issue was that there was a thinking, a suspicion that she might be suspended. That was why she went to court. If you don't stop them, they will do it. And then they did it in spite of receiving the order. Now, I said to them, they were wrong. Section 4, subsection 8 of the Constitution is clear. In the conduct of his legislative powers and duties, their conduct shall be subject to the judiciary.
So you can actually, another arm of government can stop the activities of another arm of government.
Look, can I just take it briefly?
So the judiciary, the court can stop the activities that goes on in the chamber. I imagine that the activities within the chamber, there is some level of immunity to the procedure and the activities of lawmakers within the chamber.
As long as the activities do not obstruct the due process of law. I mean, once a Senate is in session, it is carrying out legislative business. Whether it is about a seat, whether it's about a breach of privilege, whether it is about passing the law, whether it's about passing a motion, it's all brought down on legislative privilege. And so when the Constitution of Nigeria says that the National Assembly's duties shall be subject to the jurisdiction of the courts, shall, it means it. And that's why they run to court each time they are suspended. Jinda was there. Ndume was there.
And I was going to reference the case of Omoagege. It was a rested case in the court.
Yes.
The case of Ali Ndume. They all went to court.
Dino Melaye.
Yes. These are cases that have been decided by our court. In that case, there is an underlying factor that the courts
have talked about. For example, most courts are of the view that you can't suspend a sitting senator or lawmaker of any legislative body for more than 14 days, interpreting the Legislative Powers and Privileges Act.
But so there is an establishment that the Senate or the National Assembly, when there is a quorum and there is a sitting, can suspend one of their own.
Oh,
established,
definitely.
By their own rules.
Definitely.
But the court, as at the famous case of Senator Omoagege, that you cannot suspend for more than 14 days.
Correct. And not only that, you can also not suspend without hearing the other party.
Dear Senate President, may I be given a chance to speak?
Prayer 1.
Yes.
That the Senate do suspend Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan for 6 months for a total violation of the Senate Standing Rules 2023 as amended for bringing the presiding officer and the entire Nigerian Senate in general to a public opprobrium. Those in support of prayer will say aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. I put the question. Those in support of prayer will say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. How do you amend a prayer that is unanimous?
Wow. So Senator Natasha Akpoti has been suspended for 6 months. You hear the craziest parts? When they brought up the prayers, they say those in support say aye, everybody aye. Those against say nay. Even one person no support her. Now, I immediately sent and gave one of my chairman because I told him, I said, this is a white elephant project. These fights cannot yield anything. Do you understand? Do you know what Natasha tried to do? Natasha tried to take the president to report the Senate president to the Senate. Do you understand? How does that work? You are petitioning the president of the Senate to the Senate, the president of all lawmakers. You are suing him. Whether they talk through or not, you know, go still win. Especially in a place like Nigeria. What were you expecting? That some people will support you so that they will miss their chances for 2027? Some other people have a big political ambition that they are not ready to play with because of one Mrs. Natasha Uduaghan somewhere. This is Nigeria. She didn't really calculate her fight properly. That being said, for me, I love the fact that she stood up for herself. You understand? I love it. Whether they like him or not, they out there. If they like, if the man do him, I don't know. If he no do him, I don't know. But she don't speak her truth and the thing don't free. But you see why this fight is against her somehow. Because this thing happened to you. You had an opportunity to speak. You didn't speak. Although for victims, you cannot tell them the right time to speak. The time that they speak is always the right time. There's no particular time to speak for the victim. But from Natasha's angle, and I will go 50-50, right? From Natasha's side, it can't be as if Natasha, they deliberately disrespect the Senate president because she gets something on her. That being said, again, the Senate from the other angle, it can't be as if as she no green knock Senate President too, they throw us up and they poke her. So now 50-50. From Natasha's side, it be as if because of the evidence, she no one respects Senate President. From the other side, it can't be as if Senate President, they deliberately they poke her because she no give them knocking to knock. So it's a 50-50 thing. But in the case of say she sue Senate President, we all knew that was not going to fly. But like I said before, the Senate President is supposed to stand trial. To be very honest, it's supposed to stand trial. They accuse you of something. She claims she have evidence. Did you people even bother to do an investigation to see her evidence? Una don't see her evidence before una just conclude. Una don't rush now go suspend the lady now. The lady no get anything to talk. What was she even expecting? She wouldn't have started this fight, to be very honest. House, so how many women did the house? How many women did the house? I'm not saying Natasha is saying the truth. It's possible that she cooked up the story. And it's possible that she's saying the truth. But I wish she had come out with that kind of thing, if evidence no they did now word of mouth, because she said the guy man make advances, the husband they went there, they touch her hand and all that. Anyway, Senator Natasha, stay strong. And then for women, I know a lot of women, this will stop a lot of women, a lot of victims. It will push a lot of victims back to the cupboard, to push a lot of victims back to the closet, because they've seen that if somebody as big as Senator Natasha would come out with something like this and she would not get justice, then talk less of them that are not up to our level. It's a very complicated situation. That being said, I'm not saying that Senator Natasha is saying the truth or Senate President Akpabio do. But I'm just saying that she deserves a trial. If at all, she deserves trial. Two of them, the Senate President needed to calm down first may deputy take over, then may they go through the case properly, may everybody bring their evidence. Then anybody will no come get evidence, then that person, they feel sanction them, or they go strip them off the Senate, blah, 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 blah. But it's just so unfair that it had to end like this. But welcome to Nigeria. Like I said before, I don't tell my chairman, even though he argued with me, I told him, I said, bros, Senator Natasha will not get anything out of this. We are talking about the number 3 man in the country. That's the number 3 man in the country as far as democracy is concerned. So I don't know. But Senator Natasha, stay strong and then keep fighting and then continue being like the voice to the women, because you have been trying so far. Me, I respect you, especially for that Yaya Bello fight where you stand up against them. A lot of people don't know about that story. And then the one of the Ajakuta steel, you know, the Russian government, you know, everything. Imagine people where they know what's up, they know who you are. But again, I think you were a little bit sentimental with this fight. A lot of sentiment came into it. And lastly, you see why the fight, you cannot even win the fight, no matter what. This man is close to your husband, very, very close ally to your husband. The only way to fall this guy, man, down, now if you bring something very, very deep. And from the way they say you and say your husband, they're very close to this man. If you bring something very deep, it go affect your husband as well. So your hands are tied, you know, your hands are really tied. But then again, it's a win-win. You spoke up. That's the most important thing. You know, for your 6 months, I don't know if you still owe money. I don't get anything on me right now. I don't get much. I don't get much on me right now. Sending you prayers. Peace and love. Take care. Don't play.